last part. So Raising Cane's, no wonder they were a little bit upset. But I took a chewing out from them to get what I thought I had done wrong. That's why they were so mad, and I don't blame them now. Now, I see why, because they were giving me what I supposedly supposed to order. The only thing, my argument is the only thing is if I ordered it correctly, then there would have been 3 drinks, and there were only 1 drink with an add-on drink. So Raising Cane's caught it. They saw what was happening. I don't know how they figure it out. What they should do is they should do an archive. Uber kind of used to do it. They do something called an archive. Meaning when you're going through the orders, you're dropping food off at the doorstep, and you have this, you can scroll through and see. You don't have to see the name. You don't have to see the address. You don't have to do all that because they keep that kind of private. But you can go through and see, oh, I have a copy, not of the receipt, but of the original order receipt. You have an original order receipt, which isn't on all of them. They may do that for one reason, so there's not as much argument, because there was a pizza issue too, and that had something to do with how the pizza was left or whatever, but that's a whole different story. But if they have an archive, I can go through the archive and go, oh, I see here on the original, it only says 1 combo and an add-on. You'll have to reorder it. It was the case because when I went back to try to use the card again, that's when you know the card doesn't work, because they'll block it to keep from happening. Craziness. So they'll call you back and they'll say, hey, listen, we ordered 2 pizzas. On the original ticket on the thing, it said 1, because sometimes you can put a number on it. You go, well, I think I only got 1 pizza here. No, we got 2 pizzas. It's on the thing. I'm looking at it right now. You ask them to send you over a screenshot of it. I almost did that. I said, I don't know if you can do that, but I should have said, send me over a screenshot of the order, of the original order. You can probably do that, and you see, but they can fake that too, because they can have a screenshot of a previous order. The reason why I think that is because I used to eat at Jason's Deli all the time. I wish I eat there more, because it's very healthy and it's very good. But I would take screenshots of the receipts of, and I always thought to myself, I've got 10 or 12 or 20 of these screenshots that I have saved on my smart device here. I can just show them that real quick and see if they get it. I didn't do that ever. It got hard during COVID, though, because you only could get 1 plate. Good night. I looked at Todd Graves. He doesn't look very mean. Raising Cane still they don't have the right to use the FBomb. They also told me to get a real effing, the real effing thing. Now, this is not all I do, okay? But I'm dropping food off at your door, and you're saying, go get a real effing, but yet you sometimes order it. You open the door to the Uber driver or Uber Eats, or whatever it may be, and say, go get a real effing blah, blah, blah. What about the guy that drops your newspaper off? Go get a real effing blah, blah, blah. What about the go-kart repairman when your go-kart breaks down? Get a real effing blah, blah, blah. What about the guys that tutor people on ESL? Go get a real effing blah, blah, What about the president of the United States? Go get a real effing, I'm working right next to Trump, let's say. Go get a real effing blah, blah, blah. But I'm working with Trump. I'm not really working with Trump, I'm just joking. If I was right there with Biden, I'm probably not going to be, because Biden already has someone that's working with him. If I was doing some kind of, I don't know. I don't even know if I would want to work with the Secret Service, really. Any kind of job. And you're saying getting a real effing, what about I walked around New York City and walked up to a hot dog salesman and looked him right in the face and get a real, okay, now let me explain something. I'm partly to blame. I say. Partly to blame. Okay. Y'all have a good night. I know they said it wasn't a Christian establishment. It's not an eye for an eye. It's not an eye for an eye. Jesus said, no eye for an eye. Then what did he say? He said, offer up the other cheek. Or the other chicken. Meaning, offer up your other cheek. Don't go for the eye for eye. Used to be eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. No. Psh, you offer up the other one. You can call for assistance, but you don't really want to point fingers if you can go away. Because I got hit at Burger King, I kind of offered up the chicken. Now I told him, I said, look, make the order, please. The Burger King. I showed him the phone. I said, look, here's the phone. I showed him the phone. I said, could you please do that? They said, no, we can't. I said, they didn't have the meat or whatever. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, my chin. So I went around, I parked, I called the police, and I waited like 10 minutes. The guy went running, but I didn't physically like something. You do that, you don't think about it, but I didn't do that. But he hit me pretty hard. They probably have the footage floating around. I mean, I wrote a whole book on it and a sequel book. A whole long book of 300 pages, and then I'm still working on the sequel. I mean, bam. You can't do that. Now, if it happens, here's some suggestion. Don't panic. If you want to call the police, go ahead. That way the report is filed and there's insurance money that comes out of that business. And Burger King has a lot. They're owned by a Tri company that's way up north. They own something. It's like the Horton, something that's a Canadian company where they can get us coffee. Something Hortons, something like that. I think Angel and I, or when I went to Canada, we drank some of their coffee. But they own the Horton, whatever it is. It's a coffee place. They also own Burger King, and they own a bunch of other, and they all have insurance. So if you get hit by part of their building, or the window slams on you or something, then you get a lawyer. If you get hit, you get a lawyer, or you want to file a report, so the report's filed. Now, the 911 call probably can be traced, because I did do the 911 call and told them immediately. And they asked if I needed an ambulance. I said, I think I'll be okay. I think they sent one anyway or whatever. And then I waited there. I waited there for a good, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then I had to go at that point because I had other orders and other things to do. I just couldn't do it. They would have had to got there quick. But the guy ran. He ran in the middle of the night. Anyway, this one was a pretty bad one because the Raising Cane lady, she had done it a couple times. She dropped some F-bombs and then said, go get blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you something. I've applied to Fidelity. Good night. One last thing. It came out of Baton Rouge, Raising Cane's. It was Louisiana, Baton Rouge. And they got denied several times. They tried to start the business and were denied. And finally started the business. I think they're a serious company. They're not like Dick's, where you go into Dick's, whatever it is, and they just kind of go off on you because that's part of the experience. I don't think it's like that. They do have a disco ball. So I thought it was some kind of weird establishment that, okay, maybe not. She said it wasn't a Christian establishment. When we think sometimes chicken places like Church's Chicken, I don't know about them. Chick-fil-A is. Chick-fil-A is a Christian one. They're I call them the second church. They are a church establishment. I think she can say that. I don't know if they can drop the F-bomb. At Dick's, maybe they can, but you got to watch it. Some places, maybe F-bomb. Other places, not. But you can't go, hey, get a effing blue. And anyway, if I were to say that, I wouldn't lay down the F-bomb on it, too. It's different when you lay down the F-bomb. It's pretty tough. Original dog, this is the CEO or the owner, Graves, was named Raising Cane's. And it was a yellow Labrador. And Raising Cane's, the yellow Labrador was Raising Cane's. That's why there's photos of dogs and stuff all over the place. Because his dog, it was named after his dog. If I get a dog, I'm gonna name it the F-bomb. Come here, F-bomb. Come here. Come here, F-bomb. Come here. Lay down, F-bomb. Lay down, F-bomb. F-bomb. That's so funny. When I lived in Maine, there was a woman that worked there. Her dog's name was Hitler. It had a little, some cats will have it. It's a little kind of thing right here, and they call them Kittlers. Like the cat looks like Kittler. The cat looks like Kittler. Their lights, camera. The cat looks like Kittler. This is a true story. And the cat was named Kittler. Come here, Kittler. The dog was not named Dogler. It was named Hitler. She was this blonde chick. She was kind of funny. I think she was on her way to having a baby too. She worked the Rainbows. If you go to Hardwood out there off of School Street in Guilford, her and her friends. There was another chick named Natasha too. She would read Stephen King. I was like, Stephen King? You read Stephen King? She's like, yeah, I read Stephen King. Stephen King's good. They were kind of cool. Then one night I was working the repack. So they bring in this room. It's like on the side next to all the other rainbows are the things that hold the little, they're almost like ice cream sticks, and they go through the thing and they take them out and then they put them in the stuff and they put them in the box. Their hands work really quick. Well, I was back there doing repack where you go in and you pick up these little sticks. They're like little pick-me-up sticks. Little pick-me-up sticks that look like they're like for medical something, or is it like skewers? And you sit there and you put them in one thing to the next, and you weigh them. It's like crazy work. You ever seen the play Bent? Watch Bent. Richard Gere was in it a long time on Off-Broadway. I was sitting there and blah, blah, they were talking. They knew that Sarah had left me and I was on my own. I was in the cold. I wasn't at that moment. I was kept keeping warm. I was scared. I go snowshoeing every once in a while. I'd go on these weird dates with all these Mainer women. And then someone said, okay, Cole, we know what you're looking for. We've got someone for you. It was one of the workers. She was a very voluptuous lady. All of a sudden, they actually pushed her in front of the pack. I guess I was hungry or something. And they pushed her in front of where they do the repack. And she's standing right there in front of me. And I saw her. I was so embarrassed. The other guy, then we're walking off later. He goes, you should go to church. You should find one in church. I said, I am going to church. I was going to this local non-denominational church. The church was great. They had great music and everything. They even did like a Seder for Passover kind of thing. They call it Passover. But we actually were celebrating that holiday at the time, which is Easter, I guess. It would be Easter because Jesus was crucified on Passover. But they did a whole Passover thing. I thought it was kind of cool. I was hanging out with some Messianic Jews in Fort Worth at the time, which are Christian Jews. And then I'm sitting there and thinking, well, maybe I should go to a church. Because the guy was like, this woman, I know a lot about her. Listen, you want to go to a church, blah, blah. And she seemed kind of interesting. She just kind of was like, hi, how you doing? I was like, hey, how's it going? And that's real awkward. And I was like, kind of, okay, whatever. Then one night I was on the pack and they come up to me. I was on the belt because they switch us over to the belt where we have to wear the earplugs. When we go in a repack, we can take the earplugs out. Then we go back on the belt. We have to put read Escape from Maine. Then we have to put the earplugs back in the ears. And I was sitting there, and they go up to me, and they go, Cole, we just got a phone call. Your apartment's flooding. It wasn't really flooding, though. I was like, are you serious? Because I was on the second floor. I was like, how could it possibly be doing that? I was thinking like the bathtub. I get over there, and there was a problem. My cat, I had a cat, Romeo, had grabbed the hose and had fiddled with it. And so when the washer was on, when I left, I only had a washer, didn't have a dryer. But I had that washer, and then there was a dryateria or a laundryteria. It was a laundromat right next door or by the theater. Anyway, the hose had come off, and the water did spill on the floor. And Rita was my landlord, but it wasn't really that bad. It did get some of the bottom part of it wet, at the bottom of the walls and everything. And then I went, oh no, okay. And I had never missed a day because I wanted to get out of Maine. Never missed a day at work. I was there on time and left on time every single day the entire 15 months. I was there for 17 months. I worked for 15. Never would miss, always on time. All I dreamed about was coming back to Texas the entire time. I wrote about it. It was called Escape from Maine. Anyway, I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll mop it later. And I just kind of threw things in, and I jumped back in my car, and I rushed back, going through and dodging deer and moose and driving the moons. I'm like, I gotta get back. I need this job. I can get down here. And I dropped and I jumped out right inside. I said, no, the apartment's fine. I'm fine. I'm jumped back on the line. I'm sitting there working the thing, anything I could possibly do. And then the bulldog, who was one of the guys, I can't remember. He was working me too. I gotta act this out. I called him the bulldog in this story. He was kind of cool. He would order Chinese food, and I would go watch him in the. I observed people. I watched him in the break room. He had all this Chinese food shoveling in his mouth. He was kind of a guy in shape. I think he was like a Marine or something. He appeared to be a Marine. I'd see him at the bars sometimes. I hung out with some of the bars, and this is what he did. He had this hat on. I guess because he's like a Yankee. Because the Mainers, they're like in the New York, the area, the mostly in the Maine. He walks up to me. Swear this is what he did. Very Yankee. And I'm sitting there on the thing, on the line, on the belt. And he walks up to me and he goes like this. He goes like this. Cole, I need you to work the choppers. Can you go up there and do it? And he kind of like kneeled down like this, took his hat off and kind of kneeled down. Like, I was so honored, you know, even though I was about to lose part of my hearing because the choppers are loud. And I said, yeah, I heard about them. It's like a few dollars more an hour. I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. So they sent me up to the choppers, which is upstairs in where I was. I was just looking, I was on the belt looking at wood go across. I was grabbing sticks. This is supposed to be a short show. I went up there and it was insane. I wrote about it. All these stacks of ribbons of wood. Think of toilet paper, but wood and larger. About the size of a Frisbee on the width. And it was thick. Think of like a barrel almost. A small barrel of wood. That they all balance on one another. And then they would stack like 20 feet in the air sometimes, or 15 feet in the air or something. Very, very high in the air. We're talking like all the way up to here, you know? Huge stacks that would be on these rollers, and they would roll them. It was like hell. Then you'd grab one of these ribbons, you'd bring them over here, put them down, the choppers would be going, and you'd take them and you'd feed them in, and it would chop them into like like a corn dog stick or medical supply, like a swab or something for medical purposes. Then they would drop down this thing and they'd go down to where I was working, where they inspect it, make sure that it's not rotten. Then they would put that in a box. They do like 500,000 a day or something, sometimes 1 million, and they would disperse them through the nation. Someone had cut the end of their thumb off. He was this guy that drank, and he was in his garage at home, and he was working on some kind of wood project, because they all work with wood. Cut the tip of his finger off, and he had been rushed to Boston. I forgot the guy's name. And in the book, I might have put his name or a name similar in Escape from Maine. So I worked the choppers, which was more money. The next step would have been what's called, I want to say it's called a lathe, or it's like a thing where you put a big old piece of a log, like it's a log of wood that's been debarked, and you stick it on this thing that spins around sideways. So it'll spin literally like this, very, very fast. Hooks it in, spins it. Then you take the lathe, which is a blade, and you pull it down, and it starts to chop the ribbon of wood that spins it around. Water squirts out of the wood. Now, when you pick up these debarked pieces of wood, and this one little guy could do it, I figured maybe if he could do it, maybe I could work my way up. They make like 15 an hour. It's pretty rough work. And they pick it up and they stick it in the lathe that spins around. He came up to me one day. He was kind of a jester kind of guy. And I'm sitting there working the choppers. They had these headphones, and I had the plugs inside, so you have the headphones and plugs. I got to the point where I started moaning because it was so loud. I just started moaning. I wasn't used to it. And my supervisor had come up to me and said, look, you're doing this okay, you're doing this okay, everything's okay, you're doing this, and blah, blah, blah. Because it starts to vibrate the inside of your freaking brain, just, and you go home and you hear that as you go to sleep, because you do it for 8 hours, sometimes 12. I was working with another guy named Nick that was having a baby, or he wasn't having the baby, but his wife was. So he was like very nervous, but he would run it through. You had to be there. You could not leave. I have a story about that too. But anyway, I was up there one time, and he walked up to me. I know I'm mixing stories, but he'd walked up to me, this little short guy that was working the lathe. He was picking up these things and putting them on this thing where it spins and a blade goes in, and that's where the ribbon happens. And he goes up to me and he goes like this, "What do you have to buy, trade, or sell?" That's exactly what he did. It was a very strange thing. And I kind of looked at him and I said, "Books." That's what I said to him. I couldn't say anything else. He just got really close to me. "What do you have to buy, trade, or sell?" And I went, "Books." I was writing a story at the time that was called the Mohan Flower. And on the wall in the actual factory, it was actually a wood mill, was the word Mohan, M-A-H, M-A-H-O-N. So it was M-A-H-O-N. My mind works too quick for my mouth. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, what in the world does that word mean? So the Mohan flower was something I made up that was about the flower that was on Bar Harbor, that if you get it, it can heal you from pain. There's the character, Dr. Moon, who was a biologist from like Harvard that was talking to the main guy. His dog, the protagonist's dog's name was Clover. And the guy's name was Paul. And he goes driving from Dover Foxcroft to Bar Harbor on vacation because he wins this lottery thing, and he hurts his arm. So he turns in his 2 weeks notice and goes driving to Bar Harbor. They run across a case, a missing girls case, and the missing girl, her name was Nicole Miles. You got to read it. It's a pretty good story. Now, the other one that I wrote alongside of that was actually Escape from Maine. Those were the two big ones. One was a novella, and one was a major novel. I worked on both of them at the same time because I got tired of Escape from Maine after a while. So I got to do this little fictional thing. Paul Woodson, I believe was his name. That one came out of me. Then I was going to do a screenplay called Cryophobia, which no one really wanted to really try because we probably really would have frozen. It was about the winter and freezing in a car. I was going to do that one, and then I wrote a play. I wrote a play called, it's about a fly, moosehead fly. I believe it was called the moosehead fly, which I don't know if it's a real fly or not, but it was a fly that bites you and kind of like turns you kind of like not really like a zombie, but it was a comedy that was kind of making fun of, not really factory workers, but just kind of making fun of being bit by something and turning into like a zombie. The guy doesn't really turn into a zombie. He pretends to be one. It's more of a kind of Sam Shepard piece where they're Sam Shepard-ish, I guess you could call it post Sam Shepard piece, where they're in the repack room in the factory and they're talking and there's a pregnant woman working all this stuff. And that one got 50th place in the Humana Festival. It almost got published, and they considered it. It was I entered 10-minute festivals. And then I helped out the Center Theater. But anyway, check it out, Escape from Maine, and check out Mulholland Flower. Good night.